Hello, this is Dr. Jose Bolanos, and I am the Managing Director of VentureMed, and I want to welcome you all for an event that we're having today on Google Hangouts on Air. Today we're going to be having Chandra Tekwani, who's the CEO of CoreMobile, talk to us about his healthcare startup company that's very innovative. A little bit about VentureMed. VentureMed is an angel investment group, a membership organization that is focused on healthcare startup companies, helping them get funded, advising them, and we focus on innovation in healthcare. Our membership is inclusive of physicians and other individuals in the space, whether it's medical device, healthcare IT, mobile health, and early diagnostic biopharma. I'd like to introduce some of our panelists here. First is Jeffrey Rogers, who is the CEO of MedX Forward. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hey, Jose. Thank you. MedX Forward platform for accredited investors and healthcare companies seeking this in terms of a convertible note. So we have partnered with VentureMed to bring you the most innovative companies from the network of VentureMed. And within MedX Forward, you can see all of these companies in one easy place. You can sign up as a member. You can invest in all the companies as a portfolio, or you can invest in one company if you choose. But it provides a portal for you to get all of the information that you need to make an investment decision. It's open only to accredited investors at this time.
And you're located in New York.
Yes, we're located in New York. You can find information about MedX Forward at the Lift Forward portal. That's www.liftforward, liftforward.com, or you can reach us at 917-693-4993 in New York.
Great. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Sorry.
And Philip Pellerin is an advisor for VentureMed. And introduce yourself, please, Phil.
Hi, Jose. My name is Phil Pellerin. As Jose stated, I'm an advisor to VentureMed. I also have extensive experience in supply chain management, and quite honestly, got my start in operating rooms back in the early days while I was attending college. So very, very interesting topic tonight. Thanks.
And you were with, let's see, you were with Cardinal Health there for a while, and
oh yeah, I've been with Cardinal Health, Scientific, Stanford Medical Center, Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital, a number of healthcare facilities in the state of California, primarily in supply chain management.
Fantastic. And Chandra, welcome to our Google Hangout on Air.
Thank you,
We're
Jose.
happy to be hearing about CoreMobile. Please introduce yourself, and then we'd love for you to go ahead and get started.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bolanos. This is Chandra Tekwani. I'm the founder and CEO for CoreMobile. I started CoreMobile to solve the problems of busy enterprise users who wanted to do their entire job from a mobile device like this. So not just access emails and make phone calls, you should be able to do their entire job from here. And that's what I started with, and I started on that because I used to face that problem myself when I was VP and head of worldwide mobile carrier business with Juniper Networks. And that story I'll tell you some other time, but what we have brought together at CoreMobile is three technologies: mobile, cloud, and big data analytics into one product called Corey. What Corey does, it makes healthcare mobile, efficient, and coordinated. And what I mean by that is Corey connects to your calendar, your location, your phone calls, and it will always give you the relevant patient information right when you need it, not just for viewing, but actually you can act on it. So that's what we bring together in CoreMobile. And the analogy I like to give is, you've seen that TSA pre-clearance at the airports. You go straight through the security and up to the gate. Imagine that happening in emergency department. Patient gets picked up in an ambulance. By the time patient reaches the emergency doctor, the ER doc has all the background information about the patient, their relevant health records from multiple sources on his mobile device, and while the patient is on the way, he can actually stream the video that the first responder is seeing on the patient using Google Glass. That's what I give as the analogy of what this technology is capable of. So let's get started on it. I would just tell you before we get started that this is effective to the extent that in perioperative services, it not only does bottom line savings, but actually it adds capacity of 1 operating room for every 5 operating rooms that are in operation there. So with that background, as I said, I would show you what we would do, how we do it. Why we do it is because we really believe in making healthcare mobile, efficient, and coordinated. How we do it is by 3 ways. We provide ability for providers to communicate and coordinate in real time using their mobile devices wherever they are at. That's first thing we do, whether the patient is at the check-in desk or pre-op or anesthesia or surgery. All of those movements and all of that care is completely coordinated. The second thing we do is we provide context-based access to information. If a physician gets a message that a patient has become unconscious, that doesn't help him much to make a decision unless he has the relevant records from the EMRs like Epic, Cerner, and others, and the information from radiology systems, EKG systems. All that becomes available on the mobile device instantly. That's the second thing we do. The third thing we do is we provide situational intelligence backed by analytics. If a patient is going through surgery and is still in pre-op, but we know that the surgeon is getting delayed, the administrator can see that happening. If there is another nurse assigned as a circulating nurse and is not available and delayed in another surgery, then the administrator can actually reassign a nurse to that patient. That's as effective as this is, and in real time you can make that effort. What we bring out as a product is a platform for healthcare and a suite of products. What do these suite of products do? They mobilize the workflows in perioperative services, emergency room services, outpatient services, and care transition services. And we have specific products for those. They all look alike. You can actually have one application use all of that, but most of our demand today is coming from perioperative services, so that's what I'm going to focus on today. But we are seeing increasing amount of demand for Core Health from especially from payers and physician practices, which has two components: the provider version and a patient version. So you can coordinate the care for that patient across multiple providers. Then there is the emergency room. I already gave you an example on that. That's starting to come up. And then there is the care transition products, which is more for community care transitions. How effective this is? So in one of the early trials that we looked at, there were operating rooms on one side with a control desk and then a pre-op desk and then recovery rooms. And these are the movements that we saw for each of the providers going back and forth. And once they start using Core Search product, this is what the spaghetti diagram looks like. And that really helps implement lean management in perioperative services. We looked at what the theory it is based on. What is the strong theory behind it is the case process maps. So independent experts have estimated that there is a theoretical calculation that if you use case process maps, you add capacity of 1 operating room for 3 operating rooms in the hospital. What we practically see is addition of 1 operating room for every 4 to 5 operating rooms. So a capacity expansion between 15 and 30%, and then bottom line savings of $1 million a year based on reduction in patient turnover times, 5 to 15 minutes per patient savings in turnover time in operating rooms. And the expansion in capacity goes between 15 and 30%. We see about 20 to 25% in practice, but that's what this is capable of. So what problems do we solve? We solve the problem of coordination and communication. The second problem we solve is we untether healthcare providers. Whether you are in perioperative services or emergency room services or physician groups, you can do your entire job from a mobile device. The third thing is analytics. It gives you visibility into what is going on, where the time is being spent, where are the efficiencies, where are the inefficiencies, and you get them before you actually run into the problem. So predictive analytics. So you can take proactive measures to make sure there are better patient outcomes, but most importantly, you are efficiently seeing the patients and providing care. With that, I'm going to shift over to a demo of the product. What you see on the screen is a camera zooming down on my iPad, and this is the application. I go in there and invoke the application. It goes and connects to the system and brings out the patient list. Just by the fact that the patient is on the surgery schedule, I see the patient here and see which provider has provided what service and who is assigned to them. I can communicate with the providers as well as the patient's family right from the same screen. So this top row is for communicating to the patient. So if check-in desk has been ready and now check-in desk is in progress, that means the patient has come in and is in progress. You can say patient is here. You can actually record it. You can speak into it. You don't have to type it. You can say patient is here, say done. It will translate it to text. While that translation is going on, you can go save, and it will send that message only to the team that is responsible for providing care for that patient. The updates happen in real time. Whichever provider does an update, what they have to do, that is communicated to the team. Similarly, in pre-op, here the pre-op nurse can actually update the pre-op checklist. The pre-op checklist, she doesn't have to do it on paper and then go to a computer and put it in. She can update it right here, update all the fields, and then do a save, and it will save it to the system that is in place today in the hospital. Note that none of this is designed to change the workflow in the hospital or change any of the clinical IT systems. It leverages existing clinical IT systems. When you look at leveraging yes?
Can I ask you a question? One of the things that we encountered, in most operating rooms is there's quite a number of items that need to come together for a patient to actually go to surgery. Not only instructions that they're not to eat anything right the day before, that morning. Sometimes patients, so there's a number of things. There's a history and physical that needs to go in there, all the labs, all the radiology. So there's all these factors. If they miss one of them, then they either postpone or cancel the surgery, which can be a really significant detriment to the institution as well as for the patient. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the management of during your demo here? Tell me a little bit about how you aggregate and communicate. The providers communicate?
Yeah, absolutely. So I showed you the communication part, but the critical part is where is the information coming from. So you see this second row here. This brings together.
Yeah, there you go.
It brings together the information from multiple sources, not just EMR. You touch on EMR, you get the medications list, what they are on, you get a history and physicals, you get it right there. You didn't have to type anything. There was no waiting. All by the fact that the patient is on the schedule, it will pull out all that information. If it is missing, then it will show up missing for the administrator. In this case, it's history and physical. Operative procedures are available. You have outside records. So this is important. It not only gives you information from the EMR and the systems where the surgery is happening in the hospital, it actually will go pull out from other places. And this happens a lot. There with US Oncology, it keeps its own EMR, and hospital where a US oncologist goes and performs surgery has a different EMR. This brings together not only the information from the hospital systems, but also from the US Oncology system. So that's as effective as this technology is, and it's not just the EMR. It will give you insurance information, but it will give you radiology information as well. You can see the results of radiology test as well as the actual prints. You never have to go type anything. There is no waiting time. The provider is not asking the nurse to get it from somewhere else. It's right there on their mobile device in real time. Similar is the case with EKG, the labs. The labs, you can actually see the history of the labs and you can plot it in real time. So all the information you need is right there, and you don't run into this situation where the surgery schedule has to be changed because a step was missed or information is not available. Now, the second question you asked was what happens when the schedule has to be changed. So patient was scheduled for surgery, and now the patient decided to have breakfast. Now what are you going to do? This system will change the schedule dynamically because your case process map now changes. So if you want to automate the implementation of case process maps, you have a system to do that. So it takes care of that as well.
Chandra, can you
go ahead?
Yeah, can you? I think you can, but can you update records?
Yes, absolutely. So when you let me bring this up here. When you look at this information, when you did this update, like here I updated the pre-op checklist. You are not just viewing information, you are updating information as well. Similarly, any other information that is in any row is updatable. You can go update it to the EMR. Requires a specific integration, but it is possible to update the information as well. So you not only view it, you update it, and that update doesn't stay in this system. It goes back to the originating system. Say if you are using Cerner or Epic, it will go write it back to it using HL7 interface. Okay. So
Great.
That's the second capability we talked about: communication and coordination, access to relevant information that is actionable, you can update it. And the third part is the analytics. Now, before we get into analytics, you also have the ability to instantly view what is the status of each provider for that patient. You can do assignments, you can change assignments, you can reassign the nurses to that patient or which department. You can do that dynamically all from here. Remember, the intent of this startup, the intent of this company is to make sure that a professional is able to do his or her entire job from a mobile device. Now on to analytics. The analytics is where you see the information in real time proactively. So this is the patient list. I selected 3 patients and said, give me the information on them as to how they are going to be doing against their targeted turnaround time. In this part, the targeted turnaround time was only this much, but the patient actually took a lot longer. This is the patient. This arrow shows the patient. Now this surgery is done. Now you want to see another surgery that is in progress. In this case, the targeted turnaround time is shown in the top row. Here, the patient is right now is anesthesia. So even though scheduled time for check-in was 40 minutes, the check-in completed in 24 minutes, and then there was a transition for 5 minutes, then pre-op completed in 32 minutes. So it is actually going ahead of time, and while the anesthesia is here, you can see it that this arrow will continue to move, and you can see which department is ready to take the patient. So it's all color coded. Similarly, for these patients, you see that here the patient is likely to finish just before the targeted turnaround time. Here the patient is likely to go over the targeted turnaround time because so much time was spent here. So you can actually take proactive measures to make sure that your surgery are completed on time, and your performance indicators, you are on top of it. So that's what this analytics does. It's real-time analytics that you can see. Administrator can take proactive measures to make sure that the surgery stays on track.
That's actually pretty cool. In other words, a hospital can analyze the processes involved and to see the level of efficiency within that particular department.
Absolutely. For that department, for that user, there are different people who will be doing the same job but will be taking different amount of time. So you can actually go optimize it. How do they work differently? Why does it take that long? And there is no dependency on what is taking long time and why it's taking long time, or the results are inaccurate, the results will always be accurate, because every provider, when they start doing something, they say in progress. When they are done, they say completed. So it's very accurate. There is a timestamp to it.
Hey,
That's
Chandra, the technology seems very intuitive. What is the training time for staff at a healthcare facility?
The training time is very less. It varies between, say, for younger providers, we have seen about it takes an hour or so to get it in place, and for providers who are not so used to smartphones, it takes about 4 hours. So the training time we do is we estimate between 1 and 4 hours to completely master this system.
Okay, so I mean, basically, you don't really have any downtime to implement the system, which is great.
Yeah, that is very true. The whole system has been designed to complement existing clinical IT systems. You can get more out of your investments that you've already made, and there is no disruption. It's completely outside of it, no disruption to existing operations.
Great, great.
Go ahead and continue.
The other thing I would highlight here is we have ability for one provider to use it and invite another provider. What happens is that when, say, 2 users start using this, or 5 users, like we saw this at a hospital, there was a small group of 5 users in anesthesiology who started using it. Now, how it spread from there is they started inviting others in the organization. So you do an ad provider. When you do an ad provider, you can put in your email and create your own login ID, and you will be able to use the system. And now the new user is on the system. So it spreads on its own. Now at this point, we are at a point where once we get our first few hundred users, then it will spread on its own, because it will create its own branding, its own utility, and any provider, it will spread by word of mouth instead of us trying to push the sales of it. So that's how it has been designed, and it's all HIPAA compliant, because everything between this handset and the server is encrypted, and it's done in a manner that only the provider authorized to see patient information can see the information. So that's the critical part that we find as something that hospitals insist on as we go and sell this into hospitals.
What was the biggest barrier that you had in the development?
I think it's the technology. I mean, we took our time to develop it. We developed it over a period of time in a way that we first tested it out not on healthcare providers. We tested it on field salespeople. So we got like 1,000 users across 30 enterprises to use it, and that gave us idea of how users use these devices. What do they do day to day? Where do you press the button? And that usability part was critical. The stability was very critical. The security of the system was critical. So that's why it took us 3 years to build this. But that's where we are right now. And the reason we did not go at healthcare first is because we wanted to test out the system before we actually go at healthcare and deal with people's lives. So
now you have a couple partners here. You have SAP, and you also have Citrix that were partners in your development, which is pretty exciting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of our go-to-market efforts are driven with partners. Citrix gave us seed investment. We work out of Citrix offices, so they gave us a good go-to-market. But SAP is where we have the revenue share arrangement. So SAP has a product called SAP HANA. We leverage that as an underlying high-speed database with analytics, and we bundle that with our solution, and they take revenue share from us, and part of the revenue share, almost half of the revenue share, they pass it on to their salespeople to spiff them. So their salespeople have financial motivation beyond meeting their revenue targets. This is extra cash for them to sell our product.
Now, when you actually sell this product to a hospital, you have several. Tell me about your customer base, and how you actually sell it to the hospital base. Do you enter through the emergency room? I'm sorry, through the emergency room or the operating room first?
We typically start at the operating rooms because perioperative services are critical places where we see immediate value that we can add to it. So we always start there as just a communication and coordination tool. And then we get into other spaces beyond perioperative services that happens after that. We have also seen demand from outpatient services in physician groups for keep doing medication management for their patients, so communication and coordination of their activities for with critically ill patients. So like these payers want to reduce uh, their readmission rate, and those rate of readmissions are reduced by using this system. So that's that we are seeing. So we started perioperative, went into payers, and going into emergency now.
Now, with regards to hospitals, as the operating room, before the surgery starts, the nurses have.
Go ahead, nurses have to what?
Seems like Jose has frozen up.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
Pardon?
yeah. Go ahead, Jose.
Jose, yeah, you froze up for a minute there.
Oh, and so the pilots use a checklist before they take off, and the nurses in the operating room do something similar. Does your software enable that capability for them also? Because I think it would actually fit perfectly well with what they're doing as far as keeping track of patient workflow and getting them through the system quicker and more efficiently.
Yeah, this always comes up because what we have provided is a system that you can apply in various workflows, and this is just a beginning. I mean, we have just started. So perioperative services, outpatient services, payers, emergency departments, that's where we see the use for this technology.
Now, tell me the hospital customers you have to date.
So we are in pilots at multiple hospitals. One such hospital group is a group of 24 hospitals in 7 states. We are trying it out at one hospital. We typically start small. We start with a group of, say, between 5 and 25 users, or maybe 50 users, no more than that. And then we go across in the same hospital, because every deployment, every hospital has a slightly different process for doing things. So we are able to adapt to that within 2 to 4 weeks. We go in, we do a 4-week pilot, and after that we start rolling it out.
Okay, cool. Jeffrey, any questions? Or Philip, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just talk a little bit about your revenue model and how do you charge for this?
Yeah, so our pricing model for a full solution starts with just $2,500 risk-free that you do a pilot. If you don't like the pilot, we give this back to you. That's for 25 users for 4 weeks. And then after that, we have it bundled as a on a user basis. 250 users, 1,000 users, and 3,000 users are almost like unlimited users. And then you can also get it individual modules. We always see starting at this 2,500 and 25,000 a year for up to 250 users. So for $100 per year, you can actually get real-time communication module from us. And then we start picking up from there.
You said $100 per year. Is that $100 per year per user?
Yes, $100 per year per user, but that's the starting price.
Right.
That's just for this module. Then we go into analytics module, and we go into the access update module, and the price goes up. If you buy entire thing together, then it's 250,000 a year. You have to compare this price with what a operating room would spend to build an additional operating room. If a hospital has 5 operating rooms and they decide to build another operating room, they'll be spending $3 to $5 million. Typically, a hospital with 5 operating rooms will be less than 250 users. They can get capacity of one more operating room at 250,000 a year.
Okay,
so that's
wow.
the return on investment.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that's pretty significant. And the professional services, that's just consulting in the process of custom development?
Yes, there is always some little bit of customization needed. That also is fixed price. What we have done is most of this work was earlier done by consultants. We have moved it into a software that we can easily roll it out. So we have moved the unknown cost, the variable cost, into this software, and now we can give them fixed price. So the hospitals love it because they don't have runaway cost. They know that this is what it is going to cost, and we stick to that. And the reason we are able to do that is because we have the software modules built to make it happen for them.
Philip, do you have any questions from a supply chain management standpoint of things that the system might take into consideration to make surgery more efficient?
Sure, I do. Thank you. Chandra, I had a question about the multiple touch points for utilization of this system. The actual vehicle for communicating, is this something where everyone would have a mobile device, an iPad, something like that, from the EKG to the orderly to the anesthesiologist to the surgeon to the OR tech to the nurses on the floor waiting for the patients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we provide the technology where the hospital does not have to give devices. They can use their own device. This is a classic example of bring your own device. You have BYOD and bring your own device. You can use it on your iPhone, iPad, Android phone, or your desktop. So
That's
you
a
can do that.
significant advantage. The BYOD problem is huge. In
Yeah.
fact, in order to protect networks, most enterprises are issuing a hardened device. So normally employees are either carrying 2 iPhones or 2 iPads, and it's really a nightmare. So that's a significant advantage here. And how do you accomplish that?
So we accomplish that by making sure that we don't store information on the device. It's stored in the servers inside the hospital network or in the cloud that's dedicated to them. So it is never in the device. So if you lose the device, you don't lose any patient information. If you set the policies appropriately, when the device leaves the hospital, it erases the patient information on the device. So we secure the information not only by the username and password, which we leverage the hospital systems for, like their Active Directory systems, but we also leverage the device ID. So the username and password plus the device makes it unique enough that that's the user who it is, and that's how we achieve HIPAA compliance. What HIPAA means for us. That's how we achieve this. That the biggest objection to BYOD is how to comply to HIPAA regulations, and we
Yeah,
do
actually,
that.
because you're not a covered entity, that part of HIPAA doesn't really pertain to you guys, but the security part of it does. So the important part is maintaining security and securing the network so that you don't expose the networks to, outside threats.
Exactly, and it is done in a secure way because everything between the device and the server is encrypted, and the user who is only the user who is authorized to see that patient information gets that information, because that rolls in from the EMR, and then every information whoever accesses it is logged in our system. So that's how we
Can
ensure security and non-repudiation.
can documents be signed within your system?
Yes, so you can sign documents in the system. Here you can, I don't have the demo for you for that, but you can sign the documents in by saying, this is who I am, and I check box it, and it goes through the system.
Okay, so for instance, if you have consent forms for patients, in other words, you just say it's digitally signed, or do you actually use an actual digital certificate, either through EchoSign or Adobe or one of those vendors?
Yeah, so there are two installations we have seen. One where they want to use something like a physical signature, and then there are others where they just want to identify the provider and then say, yes, I signed this, and use digital certificates for it rather than digital signatures. So
Okay.
we integrate with existing products in that space.
Okay. Well, listen, I really appreciate it. I think we're coming to the end of the program here, and I would like to thank everybody for participating. And do we have any other questions, Philip or Jeffrey?
Yeah, I have one additional question, Chandra, would be the who would be the gatekeeper of the entire system relative to making sure compliance was adhered to from each touch point? Is this something that administration would oversee, IT, the administrator of the operating room, etc., somebody on the nursing floor? Who sort of manages and owns this once it's gone live?
Yeah, that's a good question. We face that day to day. It depends on the organization. We always go and start with director of perioperative services and show them the solution. They love it. Absolutely, they love it. It solves their problem. Or the medical director of OR. Then comes the question of, okay, now how do we roll this out? So it goes to IT. And there is another group called clinical services. So in larger hospitals, we have to satisfy three groups: the end user community, which is the perioperative services; the clinical services, who is the interface between periop and the IT; and then the IT part. We typically try to go at all. First, we get perioperative services on board. After that, we talk to clinical services and IT. IT does their own security assessment and says yes, security and compliance is ascertained, and then we go get a virtual machine on their network and we do a small pilot, and that's how we start growing. So we try to not go at it in a big way upfront. We always start small and then we grow internally. So providers invite other providers and it starts growing, and that's how we always open doors with just $2,500, which is very easy to do because they can even charge it to their credit cards and expense it. So we start really small and then we grow out of there. That's our approach to it. Now,
Can
who
you
is
tell us about
responsible?
your IP? Can you tell us about your IP portfolio you're showing us there?
Yeah, so IP portfolio, I was going to talk you through that. We have a granted patent which covers 5 verticals with this technology, and this provides a relevant information. It's focused on how to get relevant information based on users' context being schedule, phone calls, location. Um, and when I say location and phone calls, there is a aspect of this product which I did not go through, is on not just the schedule. You get information based on location. There are surgeons who go to various hospitals, and as soon as they enter that hospital, the relevant patient information of all the patients at that location becomes available. So it has various contexts built into it. You get a phone call and you get relevant patient information.
So Chandra,
Yeah.
one of the problems I had when I was in clinical practice, after being in practice for 22 years and sometimes being on staff at 5 hospitals, and you'd go from hospital to hospital to hospital, and you'd have to make rounds and write notes on patients. And sometimes, you're up day and night as an OBGYN, delivering lots of babies. And I'd start in the morning at 7 a.m. and I'd go all day long and I'd round on patients in the morning. You try to hit each hospital. And then at the end of the day, you get home by 8 or 9 p.m. and then the nurse calls you that you forgot to see a patient at a particular hospital because the system that you had, you couldn't figure out that somebody had just been admitted or they didn't go home when they were supposed to go home. You're saying that your system will be able to tell me that when I go to every hospital, as soon as I walk in the door, the active patient list so I don't forget anybody?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
You just have to think like this. If you had this technology that time, how useful it would have been. You
Oh.
didn't have it because we didn't exist. Now we do. So we solved that problem for you.
Well, that's great. Well, listen, I want to actually thank everybody for hanging in there tonight. This has been a very fantastic and exciting presentation, Chandra, on CoreMobile. On the webpage, we have a hyperlink to CoreMobileInc.com. And Jeffrey, thank you for participating. MedX Forward is www.medxforward. For investors who are interested in inquiring about the funding process going on with these startup companies that we bring to you. And if you have other information, also venture-med.com. And we look forward to our next event. We're trying to do these every Thursday of the week. And And this is very exciting. Philip, thank you again for participating, and I wish you all a good evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose.